I appreciate you hopping on with me today, Nicole. It's crazy because I felt like we were talking not too long ago about how my first initial call with you, I didn't expect such a change so quickly with you out of many people that are in the group. And I thought it'd be valuable to have you on and sort of share the Nicole that was before joining this program and what your thoughts were, what what you were scared of or unsure about maybe before you joined, and how you were living. So let's go back to the beginning, sort of right when we met on that luncheon at the Goodman Management Group. What made you what was like the deciding nudge or factor that made you commit and jump into the program?
I have wanted to get more fit for so long, and I've been saying the same thing over and over again. I want to do it. I'm going to do it. Never did it. And even going back before that luncheon, it was said by Aaron that we were adding a new benefit to our package, that there was going to be personal training offered the following year at our holiday party.
Yep.
And I was not expecting that. I thought that was the coolest thing ever. I've never heard of a company offering that. And I knew right then and there that was something that I wanted to do. And so when we had that luncheon and you were sharing what was involved in that, I got even more excited. And I thought, you know what? This is my opportunity. This is the universe speaking to me and saying that the time is now. Time to go.
Hell yeah. What was life looking like for you on a daily basis before we linked up or before we met that day?
My life was, just flying by the seat of my pants, a little chaotic some days, just trying to live, survive, not thriving, but just making it day to day.
Yeah. Okay. So I know from a lot of people that might be watching this, they know Nicole because they may work with you. They may be watching this from the group. But for some people that don't know you at all, you have normal life too. You have at-home life. You have a young daughter. You have daily obligations, right? So just like everybody else, we're just sort of trying to make it through the day, trying to juggle the plates, keep the plates spinning and from crashing, right? What did you believe you could actually stick to something like this before you started?
I was not so confident myself. I will be honest. I definitely wanted to do it, but I wasn't quite sure what that change was going to be that actually got me over that hurdle of I want to do it to I am doing it.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So when going back again before you met and before you made the decision to commit to the program, how was your daily sort of process looking like? Were you just waking up and eating kind of whatever? Were you just sort of were you conscious about food at all, or were you just sort of eating whatever was around? Were you exercising at all? Give me some of the backstory about that. Like how was life looking?
None of that. I was just eating what was around, what was easy, available, not exercising, maybe an occasional walk once a week on the weekends, but eating junk. No structure to my life and diet. I wasn't eating breakfast, just snacking on junk.
Yeah. Well, when you first jumped on, you were 183 pounds at your first starting weight. Now we have trimmed off, or you, not we, you have done all the hard work, trimmed off over 21 pounds so far over this first 90-day stretch since we've been working together going through the program. Thinking back to like that first day or even first week, what is something that you think almost stopped you?
Like a challenge?
Yeah. Like from starting for like once we had that one-on-one call and I sort of gave you those sort of targets to hit as far as your training and as far as eating habits and tracking foods, like is there anything that popped up was like, that this is going to be the make or break right here? I don't know.
I had conflicting feelings after our one-on-one call. I was a little overwhelmed with everything that you were throwing at me. That the macros and weighing food and ingredients out, and this is the workouts and your schedule and all of that. And I really didn't know how I was going to fit that into my schedule with everything that I have going on. But there was one thing you said during that call that has stuck with me even to today. I think it was towards the end of the call, and I think maybe you would sense that I had a little bit of hesitation. You said, if nothing changes, nothing changes. And
Yeah.
that hit with me because it's simple and it's true. If I don't change anything, I'm not going to get where I want to get with my health.
I do remember saying that actually, and it's something that I have to remind myself too. I have the daily struggles and challenges, choices as well. It's like, damn, if I'm unhappy or dissatisfied with how things are going, something's got to change, right?
Right.
So I love that you brought that back up. You know, thinking about tracking foods, have you ever looked into that? Did you know anything about calories or macros, protein, carbs, fats, anything like that before we talked about it?
Yeah, I've tracked food in MyFitnessPal before. It, for a short period, few weeks, maybe a month or so.
Yeah.
And I gave up. I wasn't seeming to do anything. I didn't know what I was doing in there. I didn't know what macros I should have used at that point.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the differences now is that there's been some structure and guidance there, so I know what I should be tracking.
I think that's tough for a lot of people. That even if you go decide to do it on your own, which is totally possible, hundreds of millions of people do it, But I think having somebody in the corner, not talking about it needs to be me, but somebody that's maybe been through the journey themselves, whether it is a coach or a friend or somebody that's gotten the result. You don't want to listen to somebody that isn't you want to trade places with, right? At least health or fitness wise, and taking advice from them. But having trust, saying, all right, maybe I didn't stick it out long enough, or maybe I wasn't on the correct path, when I first originally tried it. And that's why I sort of let it flame out, per se. And now having the trust or the systems in place to say, all right, I know that if I can at least string a couple weeks together, maybe I'll start to see some progress. And that's sort of how it goes, right? I'm sure you could maybe agree that there's a lot of work with no result to show for it at first, I'm sure. Days go by, a week or two might go by, and you're like, what the hell am I doing? I'm doing this, I'm doing that, not really seeing much change. But it's almost like, and for anybody that's listening to this, going through or not even going through it, maybe unsure if it's for them, like if this journey, if this change could be possible for them. I give an analogy a lot of planting a seed, almost like a stalk of corn. You plant that seed in the ground, that corn, and you have to water it daily or at least often, give it attention, nurture it. And without seeing anything sprout out the ground, you're unsure if it's going to pop out. This could go for any type of plant, really, but corn's a good one because you can water it 1 week, a couple more days after that, and still really nothing to show. But in faith, knowing that's what you should be doing, having a plan, giving it nurture, attention, eventually, 14, 16, 17 days later, a little green starts to sprout out the ground. And then that reinforces and gives that faith curve or that progress curve, and that's a real life curve for almost anything. When you start something new, there's going to be many days where you might not see shit. And if you can just continue in faith, especially if you know you're on a solid plan, or at least any plan for real, anything will almost work as long as you stick to it. Eventually, results and change will come, and you can learn from that, adapt, pivot, and grow from there. So I appreciate you mentioning that, you had tried in the past but had struggled with it as far as tracking foods and macros, calories. Thinking back 30 days into the program, that first 3-4 months, what was harder than you expected?
I think trying to find a way to work everything into my life in a way that will not only work for me, but work for my family, my daughter, my career, everyone around me. Because it is time that you have to invest in order to make all that happen. And the nutrition could impact meals, dinners that we share together, meals on the weekends. And so trying to find a happy medium that will allow me to do that for myself, but also my family too. So it was, a little bit of trial and error, I think.
Yeah.
And even now, it's a little bit of trial and error as we proceed. But I think that was the hardest thing, is just trying to figure out exactly how that would work into my life.
So when you mention, eating with the family, especially with your daughter, I'm sure that doesn't want to eat many of the things that you might eat, and even your significant other, there's planning that's involved that probably has to take place, right? Like there has to be some type of pre-planning, or to some extent you can't really wing it every single day and expect probably those meals to fit into your day. Or maybe it has worked for you, but I'd like to touch on that a little bit more. Maybe other people are like, oh, I do have other people that I live with, eat with. And how did you go about sort of planning some of those days? And you don't have to get to the nuts and bolts of it, but a general concept of planning maybe dinners and or meals ahead for work. How do you go about doing that in your days now?
It's funny you say that, because I'm a planner. My husband is not.
Yeah.
And so we typically figure out what we're going to eat for dinner the day of. So I think that's been a struggle for us. And even before this process, we come from two entirely different cultures and areas of the country, and so we already struggle sometimes to find something that we both want to eat for dinner. And so we still struggle with planning dinner with this involved. So I've found a few things that I can keep in the fridge or the freezer as a backup for dinner or lunch and breakfast on the weekend if he wants to eat something that doesn't fit with my goals at the time, that my daughter could also eat. So I've got a few backup options, and we try to plan the best that we can, but at least I've got some backup options that won't blow everything up out of the water.
Would you say the past 90 days food's been perfect?
No, by far not.
Would you say that some of these days they just kind of completely might have fell apart?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Going back on that first 30 days, what was something that sort of popped up that might have been easier than you expected? Thinking back, man, that seemed like it was going to be a big scary thing to have to change in my life, but it actually wasn't as bad as you thought.
To a certain extent, the whole thing, but I'll focus on the nutrition. I thought that was going to be really tough, just because I'd gotten so used to just eating what was available. We were eating a lot of fast food because you could run through the drive-thru on the way home and bring it home. We didn't have to worry about planning, getting groceries, all of that stuff, loading and unloading a toddler from the car. But I think the nutrition, even though there's days where it's not perfect, has been easier to a certain extent than I thought.
Yeah.
I've made some swaps on certain things, or learned to cook certain meals without some ingredients, or cook it a different way that is healthier, or be a little more simple with things. Not necessarily cook complex meals. Just make it easy.
I agree with that. It's something I mentioned, I guess, recently in the group, but I try and mention to anybody that I work with, especially at first. If you're listening to this, you're about to take that first step in your journey, or you're in it currently and you're struggling. Simplicity is always going to win, and it's always going to be your best friend. It's all in base hits. It's not these huge grand slam movements or mountain moving leaps. It's simple. Just trying to get on base with a simple, simplistic, dummy way of thinking. Because the more variety you might add into your day, which is fine if you're able to handle it, but if you're somebody that needs to get momentum going in your life, especially with your results and your fitness, your health, your body, cutting friction out of your day as far as food choice, having sort of a simple, hey, we're eating A, B, or C today. All these other things that are distractions around us, we're going to hold those off for a little bit until we can gain some grip, some traction in our days or in our progress. And then once we get that going, maybe we can start to slowly work those things back in and find where they fit. Because all of us, at the end of the day, we do have a caloric budget to sort of have to stay around. It doesn't have to be perfect, like I mentioned earlier. I'm sure a lot of days there's swings and misses, and it is for me too. But it's imperfect action, or that just trying to get close, like in the game of horseshoes, or when you're throwing a hand grenade, you just have to get it close to make it count. And I think that's the overall theme of people that get results versus people that don't, is the moment they say, it's not perfect to the T, screw it, I'll try again tomorrow, or I'll try again Monday, I'll start it back. That cycle that a lot of people can fall into, to where it's not for me. And no, it is for you. It's just try and get close as best you can. It's not about being perfect. It's imperfect action. Thinking back over this whole 90 plus days so far, is there a moment in time or an event or something that you think that where you mentally locked in and was like, all right, I feel like I got a good rhythm going now? Is there something that sort of clicked to you?
Yeah, I think maybe about a month in. Guess that would have been like the end of February, maybe beginning or middle of March. I felt like I was getting in a good groove.
Yeah.
I had started to make some changes in my diet. The workouts, I'd found a good time of day that I could work those in, and I was getting pretty good, getting some momentum going there, and it felt really good. I did, stall a little bit after that, and of course reached out to you to get me going again.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it feels really good once you get that momentum going. You're getting in a groove, and you know what you're doing, and everything is flowing smoothly.
It's tough at first to get that snowball going. Again, I'm a little jaded. I've been doing this for a long time now, but for some people, it's tough to just string along those couple days or couple weeks of just some consistency in their days of their life. And once you start to see that little blade of grass come out the ground, or see that pant size shrink, or see those jeans that you used to wear get a little bit looser, oh shit. Now you can add that fuel to the fire. It only helps. So it's that sort of no man's land at first that I keep going back to, of having faith until you can get that rhythm or that stride going, that I think a lot of people end up losing or falling off or feeling discouraged. But if you can do it, just string one day at a time together. I work with a lot of people that go through recovery or sobriety, and it's a big mentality in their day-to-day of getting through, trying to win the day. It's just, let me make it through today. And I try and play the same concept with a lot of people within the group is, hey, let me just not mess up today as best I can. Fresh slate tomorrow. Maybe I'll quit tomorrow, but today I won't quit, And that's how we can win. So I should have mentioned this a little bit earlier and dove a little bit more into Nicole, and the Nicole that I met 90 days ago. And I'm sure we're still not, feeling like we're a king of the world, and that's okay. But you now, compared to the 90 days version of Nicole, when I first talked to you on that one-on-one call, I talk to a lot of people. I don't just coach the entire, not the entire Goodman group, but people within the Goodman group. But I coach a lot of people online and in person. And when I first talked to you, you said, one day a week at best, Austin. That's what I can do. And I'm juggling a lot. And I don't know about the food thing, because we kind of just eat whatever. I'd have to pull back up the notes because I wrote it down as I was listening to you. But I briefly glanced over it before you came in today, of those original notes. And it was, food's up in the air. Maybe one day a week I can commit to working out. And I got a lot going on. So we'll see. And I'm starting off at home. So just give me some at-home stuff, which is fine. Plenty of people can do stuff at home and get awesome results. But that conversation at first, to me, being a coach that's coached for over 15 years, was I don't know if she's going to really I think she's going to have a rough time out the gate. But getting to that moment, or that question that I had earlier about you having a mental click, per se, about that first month, damn if week after week I started to notice you being a little bit more consistent, because I'm able to see people's workouts drop in, see people's cardio steps drop in, see their calories tracked on the back end. And I said, dang, okay, Nicole's actually locking in a little bit. And then next thing you know, I see a few weigh-ins coming. I'm like, holy shit. The weight's just trending and trending. And I was like, this can't be the same Nicole I was talking to, right? I just wanted to, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to have you on, is that you at first weren't even sounding confident in what you could do or what you were capable of within your day to day, like stretching your lifestyle out, if you know what I'm saying. Because at first it sounds like you were kind of headstrong on not changing a ton at first, and that's why I wanted to have you on to talk about that a little bit. What is something outside of just the weight loss that you've noticed improving your life, or a personal win that you've noticed at all? What are some things that you maybe noticed on the positive outside just the scale going down?
Yeah, I think back on that conversation early on, and I chuckle a little bit because we were at home from the snow and
Yeah.
ice storm, and I had my toddler with me, and she's in the background crying and
she was
talking
there.
and
She
causing
was
a
there.
ruckus, and I couldn't get her to calm down. Oh, great, great first impression. But that's my life, juggling all of
Yeah,
that,
it's real.
and I'm like, yeah, maybe I can do a workout on the weekend when she's napping, or maybe she'll sleep in or something. I can kind of work it in. Yeah, and I definitely wasn't sure about the food, because we had gotten in a good routine with the fast food and the junk food, and everything was, working kind of
Yeah.
that way. This kind of a little weird, but I noticed I could cross my legs again.
Damn. That's good. That's good. Quality of life's going up.
Yeah, I was just sitting down one day, and before I tried to cross my legs and it would just slip, and I couldn't do it. And then one day I was like, oh, I can cross my legs. They're staying.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But of course my clothes are, now I've gotten past the clothes fitting better part, and now my 90% of my wardrobe is way too big.
Yeah.
So I'm planning a shopping spree.
Hell yeah, good
later
problems.
on, get a new wardrobe.
So, some of those things changing, getting to go shopping again, being able to cross your legs, things like that. But have you noticed anything change mentally with the way you're able to maybe handle some of the day to day now a little bit better? Does it still feel like it's a struggle, or does it feel like it's a hassle to make it through the day with a little bit of planning, a little bit of structure to your food, having some exercise here or there? Do you feel like things have changed with that?
I think it's easier.
Yeah.
You changed my workout about a month ago.
Oh, yeah, I did.
Use some gym equipment.
Mm-hmm.
So I got a gym membership, and sometimes it can get a little difficult to get to the gym and do those workouts even still. But that aside, making sure to carve out the time for the workouts and planning ahead for that. It's definitely easier to figure out the food.
Yeah.
My life at home after I get home from a long day at work and trying to dinner and wearing out my toddler and bedtime and weekends and all that stuff. Has been, it's definitely changed. It's gotten a lot better.
Thinking back to, I guess, the old version of you, whatever that may be, definitely before we met, what is something that you feel like you could have heard or needed to hear, maybe from the current version of you now to the Nicole of 90, 100 days ago? What do you think that she could have heard from you that would have made things more assuring, or being like, hey, you got this? What are some things?
I think throughout this process, I've realized that I don't need to be perfect.
Yeah.
Just consistent and put an effort in. And I think if I would have told myself that a while back, I may have been in a different position than I got myself in before I started this journey. But that's some self-reflection that I've done on myself. And I think that has had an impact on the last 30, 60, 90 days. Doesn't have to be perfect.
I want to finish off with, I guess, and it was a great way to finish it, is that thought process of not being perfect and not focusing on that and just focusing on the consistency. So looking back now to the Nicole of 90, 100 days ago, what do you feel like was the biggest mindset shift that you had so far?
I think just focusing and dialing in and going back to reminding myself, if nothing changes, nothing changes. If I want to see this change in myself that I've wanted for so long, then I need to find a way to fit it into my life. And so I try to plan. I might not be able to plan several days out, but I try to plan at least that day or the next day how that day is going to look, food, how I'm going to fit some physical activity in there, whether it's a workout, a walk, both, what that looks like for me. Because every day is different for me, even for work. I might be at a meeting one day and not at another. I might be at home one day and somewhere else another day. And
Yeah.
so I try to figure out, how I can plan all of that into one day.
So you would say it's not perfect.
Definitely not perfect.
Yeah. Okay.
Never has been, never will be.
Yeah.
But that's okay as
Perfect.
long as I stay consistent.
Yeah. So I appreciate you again hopping on with me, sharing some value, and hopefully somebody out there that feel like they need the nudge, or they feel like it's unsure, or if they feel unsure, it's not for them. It's just not in the cards. I think if you can just take it one day at a time with some imperfect action, like you said, the results will end up showing up, taking care of themselves.